Yo soy Javier Rayón, CEO de International Play Alliance y de Jaguar Games. I am Javier Rayón, Jaguar Games and the International Play Alliance CEO. 游戏是比电视和音乐加起来还要大的产业。Los videojuegos son una industria más grande que la televisión, que la música, combinados que la televisión. Pero hasta este momento tenemos retos. Video games are a bigger industry than movies, music, and television combined. 中国中东北非欧洲和墨西哥的游戏企业已经在一起合作了，但没有得到政府的支持。Empresas de China, de Medio Oriente, de Europa y de México ya colaboramos juntos, pero sin el apoyo del gobierno. Right now already, companies from China, the Middle East, Europe, and Mexico, we are collaborating together, but without government support. 今天我们开始对话讨论厂商我自影响所学校的工作跟场次。Hoy empezamos este diálogo acerca de las políticas públicas que necesitamos para tener impacto internacional. Today we begin this dialogue about which public policies our industry needs in order to have international impact. 一起请大家介绍一起，并提问你们需要什么。Así que pueden presentarse y díganos qué necesitan. So feel free to introduce yourselves and tell us, what do you need? We can begin with you, César.
Muy buenos días. Soy César Augusto Rendón, coordinador nacional de vinculación empresarial del CEN del PAN. Con el gusto de atenderlos. Good morning to everybody. My name is César Augusto Rendón. I am the liaison officer for the National Action Party between the business sector, and the party.
So as you raise your hands, happy to give you the word. Who else would like to introduce yourselves?
I think we should all introduce ourselves.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So if we can start with the people who are here in the room.
We can also do that, of course. So would someone like to introduce yourselves? Please go ahead.
Gabriela Barron from Restart. We are a digital platform, and we are ready to hear what we can do to reach all the market in Mexico.
Thank you. Anybody else? And I'm happy to translate if necessary, like mentioned.
Buenos días, soy Benjamín Farfán de la Fundación Rafael Preciado Hernández, pero ahora encargados con la Comisión de Plataforma Electoral hacia el 2024. Estamos muy contentos de estar aquí para escuchar sus propuestas.
I am Benjamin. I am in charge of the platform in order to design what's going to be based on your proposals. I am Eduardo Mejia. I'm also part of the team in order to design the proposals for the upcoming platform, the electoral platform. Adelante. Anybody else? Welcome to introduce yourself. Also, if you want to raise your hand digitally, go ahead.
Hola, yo soy Antonio Catarino, director de Smash Factor, el torneo presencial de videojuegos más grande de América Latina.
I am Antonio, part of the biggest esports tournament in Latin America. ¿Alguien más?
Buen día, Patricio González Granados, soy abogado de Nereo Legal. Tenemos un área especializada en atención a videojuegos y de instrumentación de políticas de videojuegos para la industria.
Hello, I am you're going to.
Patricio González from the law firm Nereo Legal. We offer advice, consultancy on IP and video games, and we have a strategic area to coordinate the public policy to foster the industry.
If anybody joining us digitally would like to introduce yourself, feel free to raise your hand to... Adrián.
Adrián Chimate, fundador de Kawis, una empresa de videojuegos de México que tiene 9 años, y anteriormente fundador abrí la filial de GameNot en México, que es una de las sedes más grandes de videojuegos en México.
¿Y tú también lo dices en inglés o te ayudo?
I can say it in English. So, Adrian Gimez, founder of TechBiz, Mexican video game company that has been here for 9 years. And previously, I opened the Game of the subsidiary in Mexico that has grown up to 400 people in 2005.
So many people have raised their hands. We'll try to do it as you do this. So Jason, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jason De La Rocca. I've been in the game industry for over 25 years, and almost all of that has been around helping developers succeed, partially on the investment side and incubation, mentorship, etc. And I run a consultancy that focuses on economic policy and economic development strategy for governments around the world who are trying to invest, grow, and support their game industry. So this is the kind of work that I do all over the world, and it's extremely challenging, but very fun work. So thank you for having me and inviting me, Javier.
Of course, yo soy Jason De La Rocca. Yo hago una consultoría que justamente resuelve estos retos entre las empresas de videojuegos, política pública, y tengo 25 años trabajando en la industria, así que agradezco a Javier que me haya invitado. So next can be Hugo, please.
¿Qué tal? Buenos días, mi nombre es Hugo Abel Castro, soy director de Gamacon, es una asociación civil sin fines de lucro para promover la industria del desarrollo de videojuegos en México. Tenemos 3 objetivos principales: generar oportunidades de negocios para los estudios mexicanos, apoyar y complementar los programas académicos en las instituciones educativas y promover la cultura y el arte mexicana a través de los medios digitales. Aparte, soy el CEO de una incubadora y casa productora de medios creativos que se llama BC Media Lab, es el laboratorio de medios de Baja California, y tenemos 3 divisiones: la división de desarrollo de videojuegos, desarrollo de software para blockchain y criptomonedas, y desarrollo de metaverso. Hello, my name is Hugo Castro. I'm the director of GammaCon, a nonprofit organization that aims to boost the video game development industry in Mexico. Our 3 main objectives is to generate business opportunities for the Mexican studios, foster and complement the educational programs of the educational institutions, and promote the Mexican culture and arts through the digital means. I also am the CEO of an incubator and production house called BC Media Lab. We have 3 divisions: the video game development division, the blockchain and crypto software development division, and the metaverse development division. Thank you, Javier, for the invite. Gracias, Javier, por la invitación.
Happy to do that. Next would be Gaby, please.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Soy Gabriela Costa, emprendedora, productora de nuevos medios, directora del VR Fest MX, founder de Move Lab, laboratorio creativo, de Move, agencia de experiencias inmersivas, también presidenta de Cluma, el clúster mexicano de animación, y actualmente co-creadora de Mike's, un fondo para proyectos XR en desarrollo. Gracias.
I am Gaby. I am the director of Move, also of the VR festival VR Fest, and also of the cluster of the animation industry here in Mexico. In addition, also of a fund that supports projects in the initial stages. Muchas gracias, Gaby. Next would be Alex Gonzalez, please, Keyword Studios.
Hi, everyone. Javier, everyone, thank you for the invitation. I'm Alex Gonzalez. I'm regional director for Keywords Studios here in Mexico. Keywords Studios is a company that provides services for the video game industry. We are covering the full cycling for video game. Actually, with 625 employees based in Mexico City, with 6 different service lines in Mexico. We have customer support, functional testing, art, log, audio log, meeting entertainment. It's a pleasure to be here to start to talk about this industry in our country. Hola, soy Alejandro González, soy director regional para Keywords Studios en México. Soy el director regional. Keywords Studios es una empresa que ofrece servicios para la industria de videojuegos. Cubrimos todo el ciclo de desarrollo de los videojuegos. Somos al día de hoy 625 empleados en la Ciudad de México. Tenemos 6 líneas de negocio en México que son Customer Support, Call Center prácticamente, testeo funcional, arte, localización de audio, el doblaje de los videojuegos y Media and Entertainment, que es doblaje regular para series de televisión o películas. Mucho gusto.
Thank you, Alex. Next would be Maprang, Checkmate.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maprang. I'm the CEO founder of Checkmate AI, an AI-driven company for quality assurance at the intersection of software and hardware for gaming, aerospace, and racing automotive. Currently, I am based in Copenhagen, Denmark, but I'm looking to move to Mexico City to establish an engineering team there. So happy to be here, you guys.
Hola, yo soy Maprang, soy directora de la empresa Checkmate AI. Es la intersección de Quality Assurance, de Aerospace, de Aeronáutica y de la industria de videojuegos. Actualmente ella opera en Copenhague, en Dinamarca, pero está considerando abrir una oficina de ingeniería en la Ciudad de México. Gracias, Maprang. Thank you. Next would be Andoni, please.
Hola a todos, soy Andoni Almeida y soy socio de Merlin Capital, un fondo de inversión enfocado en invertir en las compañías desarrollando la infraestructura esencial para que la industria de videojuegos pueda adoptar la tecnología de blockchain como parte de su modelo de negocio. Hi everybody, my name is Andoni Almeida and I am GP of Merlin Capital. We are a liquid fund focused on blockchain gaming and specifically on investing in the companies building the necessary infrastructure for the video game industry to incorporate blockchain as part of their business model.
Thank you, Andoni. Next would be Lepe Salazar. By the way, people who have already introduced yourselves, you can lower your hand so it's easier to notice who has yet to go ahead. Okay, please.
Hi, hello everyone. Thank you for the invitation to this meeting. My name is Francisco Lepe and I'm the CEO of Lunar Lab, which is a research center oriented towards the development of science-based solutions for the game industry and for society as well. And we are happy to be here. We specialize in developing serious games, which is a type of games that is devoted towards solving real problems in society. Buenos días, mucho gusto. Soy Francisco Lepe, director de Ludolab. Es un centro de investigación orientado a la creación de juegos serios, que son videojuegos basados en investigación que tienen como objetivo resolver problemas reales. Mucho gusto y gracias por la invitación. Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you, Paco. Next would be Ilya, please.
Yeah. Hola, everyone. I'm Ilya. I'm based in Amsterdam. I'm a CEO and founder of Cycling Bear. It's an independent game development studio that's mainly developing mobile games. I've been in the games industry for about 10 years, starting from developer to eventually becoming a CEO of my own company. Currently, we are also my company is looking to disrupt the SaaS market with our first-in-class AI-driven solution for CI/CD in games. And that's what I'm going to be presenting to people when I come to Gamescom at the end of this month. And why I have particular interest in Mexico is because currently my team, and I've been working myself remotely over all my career, but now that I'm going to have a startup, hopefully, I'm looking for a place to basically base my team in a physical office, and I'm considering all options, and Mexico sounds intriguing. Thanks for having me here, Javier.
Happy to, Ilya. Hola, yo soy Ilya, soy el fundador y director de Cycling Bear. Yo llevo trabajando 8 años como desarrollador hasta que puse mi propia empresa. Hacemos desarrollo para móviles y me encuentro en Ámsterdam. Estoy considerando a México para abrir una oficina y para tener ahí a mi equipo desarrollador. Thank you, Ilya. Next would be Marco, please.
Hello everyone, I'm Marco. So I'm from Hong Kong and I'm working like between Hong Kong and China these days. I'm a co-founder of anime mobile gaming in Asia. So I'm really new to the gaming industry, but we are building like interactive anime characters with gaming elements with the help of AI technology these days. I would love to see like more like connections between East Asia and other countries like Mexico, and we would love to see more opportunity and resources to help Asian gaming startups or companies to get into new markets like Mexico. So yeah, it would be interesting to join this meeting with you guys.
Sí, ni hao, Marco. So, yo soy Marco, soy el fundador y director de una empresa que combina anime y videojuegos en Hong Kong y le emociona mucho que haya este tipo de acercamientos, está interesado en continuar este diálogo para que, en su caso, combinando inteligencia artificial, anime y videojuegos, se pueda desarrollar más rápido, pero esto afortunadamente puede aplicarse a muchas más empresas porque afortunadamente hay este interés de contenido combinando videojuegos y anime. Next would be anyone else would like to introduce yourselves. If not, no worries. We can now share which specific problems your companies have, your organizations have, so that we narrow down which are the more common problems, which are the better practices. This is the second of these meetings, and we have already heard some interesting challenges that are common. Alessandro would like to introduce yourself. Go ahead, please.
Well, I'd like to introduce myself. Thank you for the invitation. I see some familiar faces on the table. So my name is Alessandro Violo. I'm the business development manager for Latin America and Iberia for Xsolla. Xsolla is a global company that specializes in game commerce. We have more than 700 payment methods across the world, and different solutions for game commerce and different platforms, PC and mobile. And we've been in touch with the Latin American game developer community for a long, long time. And we are especially interested in Mexico because of the type of games that you have down there. And that would be me. Ok, mi nombre es Alessandro Violo, soy el gerente comercial de Xsolla en Latinoamérica e Iberia, España y Portugal. Somos una compañía global, es una fintech que cuenta con más de 700 métodos de pago para compras en línea. Apoyamos a los desarrolladores de Latinoamérica con el proceso de comercialización de sus juegos en plataformas como PC y móvil, y es un placer estar acá con todos ustedes, y además de eso ya estoy conversando con algunos colegas mexicanos también en la región. De hecho, vamos para México en noviembre.
Muchas gracias, Alejandro. Bienvenido. Luis Ángel, please.
Hi, I'm Luis Ángel Mesh. I am originally from Mérida, Yucatan, but I've been working over here in Xbox Game Studios for the last 14 years. I'm a software development manager in Turn 10 Studios, which is one of the Xbox Game Studios first party studios, working on Forza Motorsport racing game, Forza Horizon, as well as Fable. And I'm also one of the Xbox leaders for our Latinos in Xbox group. And this group has the goal to attract and elevate diverse talent here in Xbox, and then apply that talent to create more global, more inclusive products, and through that improve business. And whether that is directly hiring and supporting people's careers here, or via programs like our ID and Xbox program that supports indie developers. Hola, soy Luis Ángel Mesh, soy originario de Mérida, Yucatán, pero ya tiene 13, 14 años que estoy trabajando aquí en Xbox Game Studios. Actualmente soy Software Development Manager en Turn 10 Studios, apoyando Forza Motorsport, Forza Horizon y Fable. Y también soy líder del grupo de latinos en Xbox. Este es un grupo que trata de atraer, retener y elevar el talento diverso, especialmente de gente con herencia latinoamericana, y aplicar ese talento para crear productos más inclusivos y a través de eso pues generar más negocio, ¿no? Y eso lo hacemos tanto directamente reclutando gente como también apoyando programas como nuestro programa de Idea de Xbox para apoyar a developers independientes.
Thank you so much, Luis. So, like mentioned, you can raise your hand and we'd be happy to hear which are your main challenges that you have in order to operate as a games organization, or also which are the better measures, solutions that fortunately you have seen and that probably would benefit from implementing here in the games industry for the Latino market.
Before you guys start, I'd like to give you a little context. The National Action Party is Mexico's center-right party. We've always been pro-business, pro-innovation, and right now we're beginning the election cycle. It's going to be a very polarized and competitive election, and one of the sectors which has, throughout history, not really been paid much attention to is the gaming community. We believe that, and talking with Javier, and after that first meeting we had 2 weeks ago, we believe that it has great potential, and that's why we invited the people who are in charge of drafting the party platform for the upcoming administration. So we're going to go into the election, and we want to take care of this community, and we want to push the video gaming industry ahead in Mexico. We believe that we can drive good jobs, higher paying jobs. We can drive the development of human capital. We can also push forward a lot of economic activity through video gaming and through the development of human capital for the video gaming industry in Mexico. Mexico has, throughout history, been mostly associated with manufacturing, and we believe we can take that next step. And if you guys help us and help us get together our ideas and put it down in writing and form this public policy proposals, we can do a lot for the country and for the upcoming election cycle as well. And from that, we can translate it into legislation and into executive action through the executive branch. So that's what I wanted to say before I get drowned in, well, we need this, and that. Just basically the people who are here and what we're trying to do.
Thank you, Congressman.
And in a few minutes, Marco, who is the national chair of the party, the chairman, is going to be coming down. He's in a meeting with the people from Yucatan. So Luis Angel, your governor's here in the third floor. The mayor of Mérida is here in the third floor, and they're fixing a lot of party issues right now. So you might. I asked him to come down. I'm not sure if the governor's going to come down, but he might come down. So you might also give him any local problems you have back home. Well, my mom says this and that, lighting, streets and whatnot.
Absolutely. Thank you, Congressman. So like you guys have requested, this is the way in order to have dialogue, for you to speak directly according to what your organizations, your sectors in the industry need. Now that China and the US are decoupling their economies, we believe that games, as always, are a force for collaborating, for strength, because our companies operate globally. Our players also consume globally. And what may be missing is these channels in order for your concerns, your obstacles to become actual laws down the road with a constant collaboration. So is anyone else interested in sharing some of the challenges, opportunities that fortunately you're seeing? I see some hands. So Jason, please.
All right. Well, I mean, very exciting, and thank you for the setting it in context. It's something I believe in as well. There's massive potential for the game sector, not just in terms of raw job creation, but in terms of value creation. And one of the things to recognize about the game industry that's quite different about or from manufacturing is that you can own and exploit the intellectual property that's created there in Mexico by Mexicans. And I think, as you think about policy, as you gather input from, all the different stakeholders and so on, don't lose sight that it isn't only about jobs, but it's jobs, it's about company creation, but also primarily about IP creation. And if you focus on that broader sense of what success and economic impact can be, then the ability to generate wealth is much greater than just, a number of jobs. So a lot of the work that I do with governments around the world is really to address that question: is how do you enable talent on the ground to create IP for global exploitation? And they have the added bonus that because games are such a global sector, that the majority of revenue is export revenue. It's new dollars coming into the country, as opposed to just sort of, recirculation of existing money within the country. And so there's all kinds of questions there in terms of talent. Who is that? Do they have the right skills? Are they being properly educated? What's the pipeline for talent creation? Then it's about how do you support them to create IP. That brings up question about funding, about financial support and different vehicles for investment, the investor community, incubators, accelerators, all of these kinds of things. And then the question of global exploitation. Well, how do we connect Mexican entrepreneurs to all of the distributors and stakeholders around the globe? What kind of trade promotion activities are done, et cetera, et cetera. I'm barely scratching the surface here, but if you solve for that equation, right, Mexican talent creating Mexican IP for global exploitation, and then all of the programs and policies that are required to enable that statement to become true, now you have a really vibrant ecosystem that can generate not only jobs, but attract investment and create amazing wealth in the intellectual property. Now, I'm saying that at a very macro level. Obviously, as the different entrepreneurs and developers talk, they'll probably mention, much more granular needs and requirements and hurdles. But I just wanted to kind of get more of that macro picture out. And I think it aligns very well with the statements you made just earlier about supporting business, about supporting, Mexican entrepreneurs and so on. So I think lots of opportunity, very exciting. And I can talk on this topic for hours and hours, but I'll pause there and let others have a word.
Education is also a huge thing that can be pushed, and developing and creating pathways for young Mexicans to aspire to become gamers and game developers, not only just game consumers, but also put their talent to use. And I think that you can help us in pointing in the right direction, what curricula we need to, I don't know, for the public education system to have animation studios, to focus on certain programming classes. And I think when you get down to the nuts and bolts, as you said, it does get interesting and complicated.
Yeah, well, as a side note, one of the things that's very encouraging is that games are a good motivator for youth engagement into STEAM and STEM type educational paths, which as a country, the more you have young students going into engineering and mathematics and science and all these kinds of areas, like that's good for the whole nation. And games sort of serve as this, as an attraction for kids to stay in school and kind of pursue those paths. So at a very strategic level, it's also good for that purpose as well. But
absolutely, Jason. Thank you so much. If anyone wants translation, you can request it for now so that everyone can participate. We'll just continue. So next one would be Paco Lepe, please.
Yeah, actually, my comment is very related to what Jason just mentioned, and it's the fact that research centers here in Mexico and also studios lack funding for research and development. And this is incredibly sad because it's very costly. So creating a game from zero can take years and cost a lot of money. And also there are lots of universities, professors who are trying to create science, game-based science, and we don't have money, we don't have support. Like we used to have in the past CONACYT and lots of programs that we could use, but they don't exist anymore. So for the past 4 or 5 years that I've been here in Mexico since I came back from Japan, I've spent my own money. I found like fundings from different parts of the world, but nothing in Mexico. And it's incredibly hard to try to do science, game-based science, or create games here in Mexico with zero funding. Like the only fund that you get is perhaps some credit from a bank, and that's it. But now with this current administration, unfortunately, there is zero support for research and development and for innovation. And there is no way that a country can progress in terms of an area such as games and entertainment technology if we do not have money for research and development. So I think it's very important for all the political parties to pay attention to the fact that if you want the country to be better, you need to invest money in innovation, in education, in science. And I have many colleagues who actually publish internationally on peer-reviewed journals and international conferences, and we don't have support. We don't have funding. We don't have attention from the Ministry of Education. We have zero support from CONACYT. And what happens then? When you have zero money and you are asking people to create IP, to create new things, and you don't give them anything in return. So we are investing our own money, our own funds, and trying to get money from wherever we can. And to be honest, all of us receive invitations to go to Europe, to go to the Middle East, to go to the United States, to go to Canada to work. And sadly, I would say that half of my colleagues have already left the country the last 2-3 years. And I fear that I myself have to leave the country if nothing changes.
Thank you so much, Paco. I believe that your very well-pointed problems, concerns echo so much of what many Mexican game companies face. And in context, so many of us, we meet until it is GDC at San Francisco or Gamescom in Germany that is upcoming. It is strange that even though many of us are companies that operate in Mexico, it is there that we have to go because that's where, fortunately, funding on occasion happens, publishing happens. So there's certainly here the talent, the developers, and this idea, like Jason was saying, of creating new IPs that fortunately can be exported. But there's this missing gap, like you're saying, Paco, of the funds here. In context, something that has been shared is potentially public policies like the UK ecosystem. That is, instead of specifically a fund for games, which could be, there's also the incentives of if you invest into a startup, into a new game company, that is deductible. And that can be double or 3 times deductible if the company then goes into an IPO, if a company even faces bankruptcy. That's something that has helped our industry in the UK a lot. So it's all about finding your concerns and which public policies could benefit us in order to solve those day-to-day issues for game companies.
And in a political sense, I mean, you're preaching to the choir, Paco, what you're saying. There's no medicines. The country's spending the money on a train, on a refinery that we don't need, and we're paying for an airport we don't have. So you're preaching to the choir here. I mean, we've suffered it. We've had a really difficult time as Mexicans through the pandemic. We had no support at all. So I mean, you would really help us out if you could help us spread the word of how you feel. And we have to vote for change. In the end, we need to vote for change. And I think the Frente por Mexico is the option to vote for change. And we have a very good alternatives to that. And we've always been in favor of science. You guys know what CONACYT used to do for Mexicans. I mean, for people in the current administration who canceled all the funding, one of the candidates from the ruling party had her education thanks to CONACYT, and they canceled all of that, and they call it now that they call it that it's for rich people and for people who want to get ahead in life. But I mean, the benefits that CONACYT has brought to Mexico and to many Mexicans. I had the opportunity of studying in the UK, and 95% of the students had a grant from CONACYT. And these are the guys who are in engineering that developed the cluster in Querétaro right now for all the aerospace. And these guys were formed thanks to CONACYT. So I totally agree with you. And it's something, please help us spread the word. Let's vote for change.
Thank you.
Yes.
In this sense, just so that everyone has context, CONACYT is a Mexican institution that supports research and STEM careers so that people can study abroad. Very similar in Europe to the Cosmos Scholarship. So if anyone else would like to chip in, super welcome. We also appreciate a lot the esports industry, that I know that we have here some champions that have participated internationally. So we can also hear what you need from the esports side of the arena.
Okay. Well, I'm basically not, I was formerly a competitor and I competed in many countries and continents, but currently I'm the director of, as I told you, the largest in-person event in Mexico that has been tournament that has been running to 10 years now.
10 years now.
Then we actually just had it at Pepsi Center last weekend, and we had over 10,000 assistants here in Mexico, making it one of the biggest tournament in-person events of the year and in the world.
Congrats.
So thank you very much. And I'm very interested in also making this a social platform. Also offer this to game developers. I would love to invite and to support and give a space in our event to game developers so people can actually try their games. And with the government, I have worked in the past with Secretary of Tourism in Cholula, because this event used to be happening in Puebla for 9 years. This is the project that we bring into Mexico City because there was no venue that could hold
so many people.
The event in Puebla anymore. It was always a sold out. So we needed to grow. So we came here to the World Trade Center, Mexico. We already have the dates for next year. This year we could not get in touch with the government of Mexico City or have any support here. But in Puebla, we have it for years. And the idea is that we offer you a place also to promote social, for example, there's people that come from all over the world to this event. So also promote the artists like craftsmanship, cosplayers too, but also the culture of Mexico and all the good things about Mexico. But also the developers of Mexico, the gaming developers, the things that are working in Mexico. And for the next year, we are projecting over 30,000 attendees. And we also want to have a metaverse convention where we already have, and we can show you. So basically, it's just what we will need is more support that you can get on board of what we are doing. We have been doing it for 10 years, going to be the 11th year. And it's just for you a platform for everyone that is here to share what your projects and also in the government. Lo que quiero decir también, algo así, hablar en Spanish.
Sure.
I can get the truth. A mí me gustaría promover toda la parte, aparte de todo el desarrollo de videojuegos en México, que los jugadores, que tenemos una existencia de 20,000 personas, que para el próximo año a 30,000, la gente pueda jugar lo que se hace en México.
Claro. So we have already 20,000 people attending our event, and it's going to grow to 30,000. So I'd like this to be a place where players can also play the games that are developed here.
Y también se pueda promover como tal la cultura de México como país y que en México hacen cosas innovadoras de talla mundial.
So we can promote the local culture and demonstrate that Mexico is a place of innovation. Thank you so much, Antonio.
Oye, Antonio, ¿y dónde va a ser tu evento el próximo año?
Va a ser también en Pepsi Center, World Trade Center.
En World Trade Center.
Ya fue este año ahí y se repite.
Y se repite en el World Trade Center. ¿Y has batallado con la gente del gobierno de la Ciudad de México?
No he batallado, no conozco aquí a nadie, no he tenido contacto. He algunos contactos, pero no tengo un contacto para.
¿Hay en qué delegación?
Está
en
Benito Juárez. Bueno, ahí te podemos acercar. El alcalde de Benito Juárez es del PAN, es más, es amigo mío, es amigo de muchos de los que estamos aquí, y te podemos acercar con la gente del municipio para que mínimo, si no es con el gobierno de la ciudad, pues que tengas con el municipio de Benito Juárez un acercamiento, y a final de cuentas ellos también pueden hacer su propia labor de apoyar y de promocionar el evento, y creo que también se beneficia el municipio, ¿no?
De hecho, un un buen detalle es que aparte de tener cobertura constante de ESPN, por ejemplo, este año,
So we had coverage of ESPN for our tournament this year,
ellos estaban de hecho transmitiendo en vivo desde el evento.
and they streamed live the event.
Tenemos en el mundo, nuestros números de stream, tuvimos más de 3 millones de espectadores únicos.
Worldwide, we had 3 million unique viewers for our
A
event.
través de 10 streams
Yeah.
en el fin de semana.
With 10 streams in a weekend. Oh, congrats. So massive. I know some very big game companies who don't get those numbers. And in Mexico, a Mexican company does get those numbers. So congrats. I am also seeing some hands raised with our friends online. So Marco, do you have also a comment? Maybe we can go to Gabi, please.
Hi, I'm going to speak in English. So I think that I have some points that maybe we need all bank support, credit for the creative industries. Also, first stage support for freelancers, like in health, living, like any employee, you know? Tax incentives like Eficine, funding for and also funding for distribution and all the production chain, because we find more funding in equipment and research, but we don't have for sales or for a good marketing campaign, for example. Also, I think that like the creative industries, it's like so big, and we need like to be able to define like and to separate because it's different way of production and of selling. Also understand that a game is a transmedia project. So you create many different IPs, intellectual properties, and it's very hard like to do all the registration cost of your property. It's too expensive, and you don't, many times you don't even consider it in your first budget. And for example, for us, we found a model that it starts with Cluma, that it's a cluster of Mexican animation. So in that project, we can find human personal, like students, universities, and experts to be able to take that knowledge, that people, and then share it with different companies in the industry, then start supporting in that first stage of the guys that they don't have many experience, for example. And then we create the VR Fest, that it's a festival in order to promote and to share different content of education models abroad. And then we create MICs, that it's finance fund to help projects in LATAM focus in people like indigenous people, like to be able to short that how do you say, esta brecha digital. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabi. In order to close this digital gap that we have in Mexico. Thank you, Gabi. Anyone else, either people present here that have a concern, that you see an opportunity, that you see a problem, or online? Would you like to?
Yes,
Please,
sure.
Adrian.
I can tell a word about this. It's very interesting what Jason told right now, and he knows it very well, because Canada is one of the most important countries for the video games industry. And how did it happen? Basically, in 2000, something like that, the Canadian government did a lot of subventions for the companies so that they can attract a lot of talent. And that happened, Jason can confirm, that's when Ubisoft started in Canada. And basically what happened was that Canadian engineers were cheaper than French engineers, than American engineers, than everybody in the world. So basically, Ubisoft opened the studio there, Electronic Arts did it, and a lot of other companies did it. And that was one of the things that made that Canada, and especially Quebec, grew a lot in the video games industry. And Jason told two things. One thing is jobs. The other thing is intellectual property. Jobs is working with schools and have talents. Intellectual property is basically giving the way to entrepreneurs to be able to take risks and keep the ownership of the IPs.
Yeah.
Because what is happening is that the money is not in Mexico. The money is in the States.
Yeah.
The money is in Canada. The money is in Europe.
Yeah.
So what's happening is Mexican entrepreneurs either take the risks, and then if their idea is good, then they sell it to Europe and to the States, and then the IP is not Mexican anymore.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Or they don't have funds and they broke.
It's a tragedy.
That's as simple as that.
Yeah.
So being an entrepreneur is taking risks, and you cannot compete with the world if you don't invest enough money, as Aka said.
Absolutely.
So a lot of other countries, for example, in France, they have this France 2024, and they have a big plan, huge plan, not only for games, for a lot of industries, for artificial intelligence, for ecology, for a lot of things. They have a big plan of giving money to entrepreneurs, not necessarily giving money, maybe giving loans, or removing taxes, or that kind of things, or associating big industries. Because in Mexico, we have industries that have a lot of money, but they're not betting in this area, right?
Yeah, possibly making deductible the investment into our...
So, basically, a lot of other countries are betting a lot. And when you go to San Francisco, when you go to the Gamescom, you see countries representing the industry.
Yeah.
Maybe we would also have to educate Mexican venture capitalists and educate the people with the money into the opportunities that the gaming industry offers. Maybe they're not as aware or as technologically savvy as people in Silicon Valley or somewhere else, and they need that.
Yeah, they have fear.
Yeah,
they have fear because basically Mexico always has been a manufacturing country.
Yeah.
And when you do manufacture, what you're doing is that you're implementing other people's ideas.
Yeah. Very quickly, I want to...
The same will happen with artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Last month, I saw that if I knew that some artificial intelligence things were being done already in other countries, I would have taken different decisions. And what's happening is that in Silicon Valley, in all those technology hubs, they know about the things before us. So we are just followers.
Yeah. Very quickly, I want to invite our guests to speak instead of typing in the chat. We also have a very healthy discussion on the chat, but people cannot read here. The screen is so huge. So very quickly, supporting what Adrián and the congressman was saying, that is so true. If the creators lose their right to their own intellectual property, we would not be making rich people richer, not helping Mexican entrepreneurs. And Raúl Padrón from Miami, he recommends that barriers for foreign investment and especially tax policy needs to be revisited for all of the technology involved in gaming. The benefits is very similar to what Adrián was describing, long-term development of these and other technical-centered industries. The tax benefits help a lot. Alessandro recommends a Shark Tank for video games and animation projects. Well, I was on Shark Tank there, so I can tell you a bit about that. But Jason, please go ahead.
Yeah. I just want to jump in super quick to reinforce some of the statements that were made. I mean, one of the challenges in terms of educating the investment community that exists in Mexico is that you need investable targets. And I think one of the challenges around entrepreneurship is that Mexican creators have not been given proper business and marketing and entrepreneurship training. So you have a lot of passionate artists and designers and programmers that are all very excited and driven to go into games, But because there's no funding and no support structures and no incubators and no business training, they sort of inherently go down a much more kind of starving artist path as opposed to a true entrepreneurial path. And even if you go talk to all of the Mexican investors and you show them the majority of the startups, they're not going to invest because they're going to say, this is a bunch of artists. These are not business people. It's not, I can't invest in this. So it's not just that the investors are not aware. It's also that given the current climate, the available investment targets are not really viable because they just haven't been given the training and the right support in the right direction. So you kind of have to meet things halfway. And with that, I apologize, but I do have to run early. Funny enough, I'm doing a very similar conversation with the government of New Zealand that is also trying to resolve their investment structure into games, and recently announced a $120 million 4-year investment structures that I helped design. So I have to run to another call, unfortunately, but I'll follow with Javier, and I'd be honored to be involved and help you come up with a platform and policies for the game sector in Mexico.
Thank you, Jason, and congrats on getting that fund and the government to cooperate.
Thanks so much, Jason. Congrats.
Thank you. All right. Bye, gentlemen. Bye.
So next would be Maprang in Denmark.
Yeah. So too bad like Jason has to jump because I have something to say regarding his point earlier. But yeah, so to Jason's and Lipe, am I pronouncing your name right? Lipe?
Lipe.
Yeah. Lipe, yeah. So to Jason's and Lipe's point regarding the STEM education, like you said a while back, right? I would like to also add that the reason why Checkmate AI, which is an American business, is looking to establish a development center in Mexico, particularly Mexico City, is because we know that we can have equally as good engineers in Mexico who are not only bilingual, but also effective in terms of operational costs. And Mexico City still allows a close proximity for our business to the US, right? And with the advancement of AI and the recent layoffs, multiple rounds of layoffs in the US, I'm telling you as a former engineer myself that most engineers out there are not up to the task when it comes to AI. I have come across Silicon Valley engineers who don't have much clue around how to integrate AI into the new software products, right? So what does this say, right? This says that Mexican engineers now have a shot at like getting up to par in terms of like, the wages, or now you have a shot at increasing the playing field, right? Because nobody, especially in the software engineering world, has much a clue for how to actually work with AI, because AI actually is very mathematical, and people who have quantitative backgrounds, people who come from areas like astrophysics or econometrics, like all those stuff, these people have better chances at actually becoming proficient with AI development, granted that they pick up a new skill, which is programming, which is not that hard to actually pick up for those people who come from quantitative field. And another thing I would like to also mention is that in the last meeting, when I talked to the Congressman Cesar, I mentioned that supporting gaming industry will not only help Mexico advance the technology around software, right? But it will also strengthen Mexico technology sector around hardware as well, since gaming has significantly become very, very advanced in terms of the graphics. This is also the reason why my company, Checkmate AI, is entering into 3 seemingly separate sectors like gaming, aerospace, and racing automotive, because we know that these sectors have intertwined software and hardware components that require novel approaches in tackling quality assurance. So yeah, that's all I've got to say for now.
Thank you so much, Maprank. Very quickly putting this into additional context, in the US and in other places, engineers are incentivized to be very specialized. So I am the best at AI, specifically for the games industry, specifically for game characters potentially. But like Maprank is describing, Mexico has potentially an advantage because right now with these new technologies, it is very hard to make things work, connect areas, industries, programs that were not designed for something as specific. So in that sense, Mexico has a huge advantage. Myself, who was invited to Apple at Cupertino, I can tell you about that. Because in Mexico, it is very normal because of the mentioned challenges that a game developer, an engineer, an artist, we have to be very rounded in our skills. So instead of just narrowly focusing on only one part, any challenge that we come across, we have to figure out how to solve them because there are no very specific departments necessarily. And that is right now an advantage for these new industries and for companies like Checkmate. So thank you, Frank. Also, Paco Lepe, go ahead.
Yes, actually, I wanted to mention, like, building on what Frank and Jason have mentioned before, is that in Mexico we have like the talent already, and we already have people who are capable of doing things. So we don't have an ecosystem in which to build it, and we have some kind of like efforts right now. Like we have Developers, which is a community of developers, and we are trying to learn. We're trying to help all the developers to learn how to enter the business, how to become fluent in English. But we have zero support from the government or from any other institution. So it would be nice if the Frente and the candidate and the new government actually does have a plan in order to support all, like not just like maybe for schools, not just for like specific companies, but rather to create an ecosystem, a better space for everyone, which we can actually like help students become engineers, help engineers develop or create studios, help studios to become proficient, and so on and so forth, in which like we can have like not just like, I know that there are schools like Tec de Monterrey which do have like this as programs in which they help students or innovators to become entrepreneurs. But it would be nice if this would be also, if this were also available like by from CONACYT or from a different entity in the government. And also it's very important, like something that all of the studios in Mexico have problems right now is the fact that because it's not very clear, like the law does not protect IP in Mexico very clearly. Like in the case of games, there is no such thing as laws that protect games. So they protect certain aspects of games, but not all of them. And it's very hard for a game developer, from a designer, or from a programmer to understand the law. And it would be nice if it were clear. And also it would be nice if it will also like easier for these small studios, which tend to have between 5 to 10 people, to pay less taxes, or to make it easier to pay taxes. Because in the end, we are trying to create businesses that actually make money. And sometimes many of them end up losing money because they do not know how to pay their taxes properly, or they do not pay them until very late, and they end up having to pay extra fees because they didn't understand the process. So making this kind of information clearer and more readily available would help entrepreneurs to progress and to make the ecosystem stronger.
Thank you so much, Paco. And from the chat, we also have in Spanish and English, gran panel, pueden contar con nosotros para iniciativas que generen un mejor ecosistema de negocios en México. Esto es de Alessandro de Exola, una de las empresas más grandes del mundo de pagos. Muchas gracias, Alessandro. So great panel where you can count on us for initiatives that generate a better business ecosystem in Mexico. Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure. So with this, we are close to finishing our panel. So any last remarks that any guest would like to share? Super appreciated.
I would just like to have before that a short recap, and I'm going to switch to Spanish, con los que nos están ayudando, Benjamín, con la plataforma. No sé si ustedes, dentro de lo que están recibiendo de la plataforma electoral y del programa, digamos, para el proyecto del Frente, ¿han visto algo de videojuegos o no? Hasta ahorita.
We are not ready. We still have to not have anything.
O sea, no es un tema que les ha llegado específico todavía.
We have the part of science and technology that we are developing, but it is the first time we talk about gaming. So it is a pleasure for us to be here with you. But this is the first time we have the approach with the topic.
Okay, I think we can make a recap, and I think that Jason De La Roca and Maprang and Paco summarized a lot of the key points here, which is basically, and I like the word you said, Paco, and to create an ecosystem where the video gaming industry can thrive. We have to have support from the government through via CONACYT, the creation of clusters geographically for the gaming industry, la alineación del sector educativo para con esto también va a ser fundamental, el robustecer nuevamente el CONACYT que se quedó tirado, y no solo robustecerlo, sino darle líneas estratégicas al CONACYT para que el CONACYT impulse sectores como el sector de videojuegos, que en realidad el CONACYT muchas veces terminaba sí en el tema de becas, pero en lo que era desarrollo de tecnología estaba muy disperso y no necesariamente estaba con líneas estratégicas. También propondría que se creara, para efectos de los apoyos y del CONACYT, un consejo donde participaran asociaciones como la de ellos, que son los usuarios, que son los desarrolladores, y que pudieran decir cuáles son las necesidades ya de política pública una vez que seamos administración. Lo que estaban comentando de la propiedad intelectual es valiosísimo, y del hecho que esa propiedad la podamos mantener en manos mexicanas es lo que nos va a hacer ricos como nación. Necesitamos que esa propiedad intelectual, y bien lo dijo, es como el pintor, se está muriendo de hambre. Entonces va y vende la pintura y la malbarata. Aquí si hay talento, si hay cosas buenas, necesitamos que se queden en manos mexicanas y que ese recurso regrese a México y se multiplique en México.
La plataforma de educación sí estamos impulsando las ingenierías, las carreras técnicas, todo lo que está enfocado a las tecnologías de la información, a las TICs. No, bueno, está desmantelando el poder educativo.
Totalmente.
So very quickly, so that our industry friends in the UK and in the US follow up the conversation. So the congressman recommends that potentially, as part of the party's platform, they can invite the CONACYT, this institution that is in charge of research and development of academics, that it also has a group formed by game developers, so that we recommend which policies can actually help building this ecosystem that experts today have recommended. It is important to put this into context because many countries are trying to have these discussions, for example, in the US. And if we see tragically the discussions that on occasion the Congress in the US and in other places have with the technology industry, they're not as productive as, fortunately, the attitude that today we are experiencing of actively listening, of inviting, which are your problems, which are your suggestions. Instead, tragically, in other parts of the world, it's going back to, you make our children to go violent, you make blah, blah, blah. And we have a natural advantage here in Mexico because I believe that we are all looking for creating the next IPs. In contrast with the US, where fortunately they have so many IPs, so it's not a concern for them. So in this case, we're very aligned, curiously, what the government is looking for, hopefully in this next platform, what companies here in esports and game studios are doing. We have that advantage.
Yeah, we're taking notes about many things that you are just mentioned. We think that we have many opportunities in Mexico. I would like to ask you a question to all of you. Even though I am also checking some interesting things, of course, since the government, our main opportunity to help communities like this is through taxes, loans, like Adrian said, and scholarships. I mean, those are three strategies that can work very good in the government. But I have a question for you guys. I heard Maprang that is saying that she's very interested in coming to Mexico with her project, and another person over there said kind of the same, that is very interested about coming here. And I also pay attention to Mexicans and people who are in this community that have to go out. I would like to ask you, what are the reasons why someone wants to come and so
Sure.
Go.
Yeah. So, Maprang, would you like to answer that question, Maprang?
For example, Adrian has said that he has had some very good opportunities given the country, but many Mexicans are leaving the country. How's that?
That's very simple. Basically, and keywords, Alex is here from keywords. Other countries see that we have a talent here in Mexico that is cheaper than in other countries, right? So we have a lot of talents in Mexico. So basically, that's the reason they come here, because they need cheaper talents. That's it. And why do Mexicans go away? Because they can have better salaries in the other countries. So basically, all those guys, it happened to me at Gameloft. I trained a lot of people at Gameloft. And then when they were trained, they moved to the States. They went to the States because they make 10,000 K per month.
Yeah, and if
that's it.
Maprang or anyone else would like to chip in about why are you interested in coming to Mexico, as the party asked?
Yeah, so pretty much like according to the reasons I mentioned earlier, as an entrepreneur, right, I'm not gonna hide the fact that I'm looking for a place where I can have like the most efficient workers while still maintaining my low operational costs, right? But like more importantly is the engineering capability around integrating AI into the new types of software. That is something that, like I said, I have come across Silicon Valley engineers from my time visiting the US this year. It was not long ago. It was just this year. So I was in the US twice. First time in San Francisco. The second time was in Los Angeles. And like I said, like artificial intelligence, even though it's in the field of technology, it's not quite like what software engineering is. It requires like different set of skills, and AI is basically mathematical equations. And when you've come across programmers, you've come across people who have worked for many, many years as a software engineer, that is usually quite a red flag for an entrepreneur who look for talent with technical skills that could be applied into the new kind of company, like an AI first company like my company, right? So yeah, which made me realize that actually as an early stage startup founder, there's no need at all to actually go to the US and set up my operation center, my development center, engineering center in an expensive place like the US. There's really no need at all. I would have to pay like $300,000 annually for like engineers, junior engineers even. I'm not even talking about seniors who have worked for many years at all the big tech companies like Google, Meta, AWS, stuff like that, right? I'm not even talking about those type of people. I'm talking about like fresh out college with a computer science degree, whose salary starts at around $300,000 with the skills that haven't yet been proven in the real world because they're just out of college, right? And for those people who are now available in the workforce because of the recent multiple layoffs in the US, right? Like I said, they're really not up to the task. So as an entrepreneur, I still have to think in terms of like the training costs and stuff like that, right? And if I were to train new employees, which to be honest, I have no problems doing, I would much rather train employees in a place where I know that people are hungry, people are hungrier to learn. And I can say this, like, even though I'm not Mexican and I have actually never been to any country in Latin America, but because I'm from a place that's quite similar to Mexico in many, many aspects, especially people personalities, people mentalities and their drive, right? I'm originally from Thailand. And I always find like similarities in terms of the personality and mentalities, like among Thai people and Mexican people. And I know how hungry people from country like Mexico and Thailand are. And I would much rather start like a development center in a place like Thailand or Mexico, knowing that, right now everyone in the tech field, when it comes to AI, it's like everyone is on the same level playing field now. There's just no need at all to spend that much money hiring talents in Silicon Valley. Yeah.
I can,
Thank you,
if
sir.
Cesar, sorry,
Thank you,
I can first this comment. I can tell by experience that we have the right talent. Our testers, engineers, actors, translators have shown great quality and disposition. And I can tell that our clients, we as in Keywords, we work with the main players in the video game industry, globally speaking. And I can tell that they are very, very surprised and happy with the work that Mexico is delivering. Is of course because we are in a pretty nice time zone. We can work with US, with Canada, and that put us in a good competitive place against or between other countries like Asia. We are cost effective and we are delivering super high quality. The proof of this is that Keywords Mexico is planning to close this year with 1,000 of employees here in Mexico City. So that's something quite impressive. I can tell that this has been seen in the past years, and in my very perspective, I think that we don't have a pretty well organized industry here in Mexico. I could say that we are like 13 years behind of other industries such as Argentina, Brazil, or Chile, and it's a shame. So I think that you already discussed this in past calls, but everything starts with the right foundations and the proper foundation of the companies that are based in Mexico, with the application of the best practices that we have around other countries, other companies. And I think that the government have and played a very specific and important part on this. Also, on my very personal perspective, I think that we need the creation of a civil association that can gather all the studios locally, small, big, mid, independent studios, and this association should be the face in front of the authorities that can help us to create this industry. Talent seed universities. Also, I think, Cesar, that the free education at free education level is important that we have more programs that support the video game industry, all the careers around this. Sadly, in some states, we have found that this specific education has been segregated for only a few lucky ones. In Mexico City, we have many universities giving this kind of careers, but not everywhere. And of course, some government programs that support and are dedicated to the video game studios and the clusters of the IT and the engineering and developing ecosystems. Of course, having support like ProMexico, I don't know, guys, if you remember ProMexico, but ProMexico was a good support for the local studios because we had programs to formalize the export of the businesses and the services. And I think that's mainly on my side. Sorry for sharing this so quick. Hopefully, we can have some more time to talk, Cesar and guys from the party, because I think we have something important, pretty important, cooking right now in this meeting, which is the future of the video game industry in Mexico, and we are this new generation driving for a different and a better place for all of us.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Maprank. Absolutely. So this is one of several discussions that hopefully with you members of the International Play Alliance, with naturally the Partido Acción Nacional, the National Action Party, we are reaching these shared priorities. Maprank was asking, and it is a very important question that was addressed to Maprank, why Mexico? So we are, as she said, in a common competition right now. The engineers in the US are not better than engineers here. The artists, the esports players. Another example is here. So for those who are in the call, so you can see my background. So this is a recreation of the Aztec capital that our game is doing. And like Maprank is saying, I use in our company a combination of artificial intelligence with archaeology and indigenous experts. So that way we are making use of the frontier of AI for the benefit of players, but also so that there's better representation of how Mexico used to look like 500 years ago. For our international guests, this is Mexico City 500 years ago, the Aztec capital in Dream of Darkness, our game. So in the US, there's a challenge that naturally they are also very interested in diversity of different people joining the game industry. But the challenge is that currently they complain, our colleagues, that it's too dominated by the same stereotypes. World War II, an European castle, only white people doing games, only men doing games. And right now there's this demand for fresh settings, for fresh people participating, and Mexico has a natural advantage. We can convey our unique settings. We are diverse, just like looking at ourselves as a people here. So we have to seize those advantages, because Maprang was addressing, the engineers are talented here naturally. We only have to seize those opportunities global for our natural companies that are very talented. So any closing remarks for our guests? I know that it is very, very late in some of your time zones, so I'm worried. Ilya, you have some words, please.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Maprang was saying regarding the engineers. And as I'm also originally from Russia, I also understand that the talent is not necessarily only where it's the most developed economy, but talent spreads equally around all the places. So what I was going to add regarding the previous topic, before Maprang was asked why she's coming to Mexico, it was about, like, that's what piqued my mind. It was about how to not only just increase the number of jobs or increase the number of entrepreneurs in Mexico itself. So like the problem raised was how to like people are interested in Mexico because there could be talent for lower pay than in other countries. Like that was a statement in a discussion, and then the way to mitigate it, to like solve this problem, to increase the economy in turn, is to basically support local entrepreneurs. But what I was going to add to that it's also possible to create terms favorable to overseas entrepreneurs that are willing to move their operation overseas to Mexico, and that would basically give a little boost. Not a little, but I mean it depends on the on the many circumstances, but will give a boost that's way more apparent and quick in terms of its execution and results. Because if, like, in order to nurture the entrepreneurial sphere, like as it was mentioned, like it's lagging behind for like a decade comparing to neighboring countries. So it's going to take a little while to nurture it from the ground up, not from the ground up, of course, but from where it is now to where US is, for example, just as a comparison. So it would really help, in my opinion, to also help entrepreneurs like Maprang and maybe myself eventually to move to Mexico and then organize something, but based on an existing business that's already running somewhere. And yeah, that will be just faster to achieve the goal. And then how it solves the salaries problem. So once there is a competition, once there is like company 1, company 2, company 3, and then there is a local company as well, there is competition for the actual employee to choose what job he wants to get, depending on many circumstances. So there would be a choice, and once there is choice for a developer or an artist or any professional, the salaries would also rise as they would be competing for this certain talent. Yeah, that's the whole point.
Thank you, Ilya. So maybe we can wrap up. Fortunately, it has been a very healthy discussion, and this is the way to progress in our industry, by yourselves, actors who are on the ground, creating your companies, creating the games, the technology, participating in esports tournaments already internationally, speaking directly with the congressman, with the party, so that these hopefully next policies can be more informed, and you can also get to know which questions, which concerns the industry has. And I'm pretty sure that we can find a middle point so that we can operate and create better games.
If the team that's doing the platform. And I mean, I think discussions are nice, but we have to turn it into actionable policy. I think it should be, as Lepe was saying, and trying to build an ecosystem, it has to be something integral. I'm thinking, and I'm going to go into Spanish, and I'm sorry for the people who are not from Mexico, but básicamente buscar integrar transversalmente lo que es política, la Secretaría de Economía, SHCP, CONACYT, CEP, NAFIN, Bancomext, creo que son instituciones que están vinculadas, de buscar ya sea a través de gobierno federal, si Dios quiere, y nos favorecen con el voto, y si no, a través de nuestros gobiernos estatales, el diseño de clústeres, para regionalmente detonar este tipo de industrias. Creo que tiene que ser un tema también más macro, no nada más enfocado a lo que son videojuegos, sino a lo mejor desarrollo de tecnología o de software, donde videojuegos juegan una parte muy importante.
So integrate horizontally with benefits so that not only the federal government participates, but also the clusters, the states participate.
Creo que es importante mencionar que el mercado mexicano de los videojuegos es un mercado para el consumo muy importante, pero también hay que aprovecharlo ahora y aprovechar el talento de los mexicanos. Creo que la capacidad de los tema de juicio. En los últimos años se ha venido desarrollando un tipo de outsourcing que captan los cerebros mexicanos y que hoy desde México están trabajando para empresas en la India, para Hong Kong, para N cantidad de países. Y yo creo que es muy importante que podamos generar las condiciones desde el gobierno para que esa inversión llegue a México. Que no solamente sea la fuga de los cerebros, sino que podamos traer los beneficios de esas inversiones para más mexicanos, para más ingenieros mexicanos.
The engineering talent here is very healthy. That's why right now there is an industry of outsourcing that's talent for companies in India, in other places. But instead, we can have this talent to operate here locally.
We have I think a firm grasp of the needs to develop the industry. Of course, it's on a macro level. I think that Javier and all the team at the IPA could also help us and maybe give us additional information and help us develop and bring this down to paper together. Que los apoyen a través del conducto de Javier y que les pase para tratar de integrar lo más posible y pues no, ahora sí que piensan más dos cabezas que una. Creo que nos podrían ayudar mucho.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know that it is very late and people were asking me constantly, just 1 hour, please, because it is so late in Europe and in MENA. So potentially we can wrap up for today. We will continue our discussions and thank you for all our international play members. Your alliance makes these kinds of dialogues happen. So we'll be in touch for the next meeting. Thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Gracias por el espacio.
Thank you.
Gracias a todos.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Buenas noches.
A todos.